We'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everybody here tonight to the Lake Forest Planning Commission meeting. And at first we'll call Commissioner Verplank to lead us in the pledge.
Would you all please rise? Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do not have a presentation item tonight, but I'd like to see if there are any public comments. No. Then we're going to move directly to the consent calendar. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this consent calendar. Please vote. Okay, so we're going to move right along to the second item, which is the planned sign program for Foothill Retail Center located at Lake Forest Drive. And we will call upon Gail.
Madam Chairman, the applicant has requested that this be continued to the July 14th Planning Commission meeting.
Well, that makes it very easy for us tonight, doesn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we would like to have a motion for that.
I'll move that we continue this item to July 14th.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. All right, item number 3, a minor plan sign program.
Yes, this minor plan sign program for temporary subdivision and model home signage for the Parkside community. Jennifer Mansour has a staff report.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. The item before you tonight is a minor plan sign program for temporary signage for the model homes at the new Parkside residential project. As you've probably seen if you've driven past the site at Portola Parkway and Rancho Parkway, the site is currently undergoing rough grading and is hoping to have precise grading and building permits for model homes in the next month. This plan sign program is the last Planning Commission entitlement for this residential project. The developer is proposing to have 6 types of different signs at each model home complex. The signs maintain a consistent design and color palette and will be on private property. The developer is also proposing directional kiosk signs to help customers navigate the different model home complexes for the 3 neighborhoods. Flag poles, which include vertical banners, are proposed on private property at the Main Street entry into the project and would be visible from Rancho Parkway. The program also includes maintaining the existing future facility sign on Rancho Parkway and a new 13-foot tall sign that would be visible from the 241 toll road. Pursuant to the city's sign code, the proposed signs require approval of a minor plan sign program, and the maximum number, size, and height of the signs is subject to Planning Commission's review. Although the zoning ordinance does not specify any regulations for the signage, the proposed temporary signs are typical for a new master planned community. The proposed signs are not excessive in number, size, or height, and the number of signs are adequate to help prospective buyers safely navigate the site. The largest proposed sign is a 13-foot tall freeway sign that will only be visible from the toll road. The height of this sign is reasonable for a freeway sign, and it's comparable in size to similar signs in adjacent communities identifying new residential subdivisions along the toll road. The design and proposed colors for the signs are consistent with the character of the new community and will create a consistent temporary sign appearance amongst the different neighborhoods in the community. Accordingly, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution approving the minor plan sign program. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer for them. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Jennifer? Okay. Well, then are there any speakers on this? No cards. All right. So does anyone have any input on this? Does anybody want to make a motion?
I just wanted to ask, which of us is the expert on signs?
I would say that we are all sign experts, and but I would probably give mostly Mark.
I would assume that when the project is through, that these are, as you indicate, temporary, and there's not an expiration, but as soon as the project's done, or...
Yeah, there's provisions in the Plan Sign program that all the model home signage needs to be removed 2 weeks after the final certificate of occupancy is for that neighborhood. And I believe that the signage for the overall residential project has to be done. There's a time period, I'm not sure exactly, but after the last certificate of occupancy for the last building in the project.
Does anybody want to become more of an expert than Mark? No. How about a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing, bring this back up, and approve staff's recommendation.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Let's vote. Thank you. Moving along to item number 4.
Item number 4 is a site development permit for Beach City's Towing Auto Storage Yard for the fence and gate height. And Amy Stonich has a staff report this evening.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. Beach Cities Towing is requesting approval of Site Development Permit 4-16-4908 to allow an entry gate and fence to exceed 6 feet in height in conjunction with the auto storage yard at 23182 Orange Avenue. The auto storage yard use was previously approved by the Planning Commission through Use Permit 10-15-48-47. The entry gate and fence have been constructed, and the unpermitted height of the fence was brought to the city's attention through code enforcement case. The entry gate, which fronts Orange Avenue, is 6 feet 6 inches tall and is approximately 30 feet in length across the entrance and exit of the property. The gate has been constructed in place of the prior entry gate, which was made of chain link with lattice slats. The fence, which is 8 feet 2 inches in height and is approximately 30 feet in length, runs between the subject site and the Mako property to the north. An existing 6-foot block wall surrounds the property on all other sides. The block wall remains the same and has not had any modifications. The gate and fence are painted in a Navajo brown with rust-resistant paint. This color is similar to the awning and rain gutters on the existing building. The Lake Forest Municipal Code allows modifications to fence height provisions with the approval of a site development permit and subject to specific findings. These findings are included in the revised resolution that is before you on the dais. The entry gate and fence are similar to other fences and gates in the industrial area and will provide the necessary security for the towing yard use. The wrought iron fence will screen the towing storage yard from view along Orange Avenue, and the fence adjacent to the property to the north will provide security for the tow yard. Based on these findings, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the application. I am available to answer any questions, and the applicant is in the audience as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of staff?
Chief, I don't know if it's appropriate if I could ask you a question on this, or maybe you know too. Is Beach City Tow one of the official police tows that we use? Just
It is not.
okay, and so we wouldn't be storing any vehicles held for evidence or anything like that in that particular storage yard. Okay.
I have a question. Amy, on their site plan they submitted, there's a couple of small little areas with a term plants in there. Doesn't seem to be any plants. Is there any way that we can encourage the owners or the operators to spruce up that landscaping in that very limited area they have? So
I would just clarify that the location for the plantings on their property are more towards the corner of the property. Can you point out which location? Because you're right, there is not as much
Yes,
landscaping in front of the Mako property.
It's on it's page 5 of 8 or page 47 in our PDF. It shows a site plan, and then it shows some either existing or proposed landscaping, but if you look at the photographs, there's no apparent landscaping in there.
Yes, we can work with the applicant on that.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have some cards on this?
Alex Mohammed.
Good evening, Commissioners. More of a, I think I had something, concern that I wanted to address with you guys. I'm with Southside Towing, we're their neighbors. And parking situation has kind of, they don't have a parking for their customers there. So a lot of their customers are parking in our parking lot and coming back. They think that we're the Beach Cities tow yard, so they go in and they park in our parking. Another thing that was brought up to my attention was that they backing their cars, their trucks into the lot. So Ron can probably back me up on this. When we designed our parking or our lot, the city required that we had an entrance and an exit so that we wouldn't block the streets as we came in. The problem with these guys is they're actually blocking the street and they're backing their cars in. So, and then they park their vehicles. There's no parking for their trucks, so they park them literally on the street, sometimes in front of our site as well. So that was something that I wanted to address, and I think, Mark, you asked a great question. Do they do police towing? And the answer was no. So there's literally no inspections for these for this yard at all. What they store there, whether it's damaged vehicles, if there's leaks, there's no water catch. There's no way to filter any of that. So when these leaks go into the storm drains, or lack of storm drains, it's on your streets. So kind of just wanted to address that. The fact that I think there's a lot of concerns with traffic flow in that area was really kind of a concern already. And I think the last time we talked about towing, tow companies in the city of Lake Forest, Jillian, I think you asked the question of, do we have enough tow companies? The answer that I gave you at the time was not enough good ones. And so I guess my concern is that maybe there are a need for tow companies, but I don't think that's the best site for the tow company or for that tow truck company. And if that was the direction that you guys were going to go, I think we talked about a setback, maybe having them pull into the property, pull off the street, pull into the property, and then deal with their cars the way they're doing it. But right now they're kind of causing a lot of traffic in that area and a parking situation for us. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, well, do we have any more cards? Is the applicant in the audience? Okay, the applicant is in the audience. I did see a raised hand. Maybe I could just ask a question. So what we have before us tonight is to raise the height of a fence in a business that is existing. And so what is it that we can or cannot do with item number 4?
Yes, that's correct, Madam Chair. The issue before the commission today is a site development permit regarding the fence height. And as you know, the commission previously approved this project, and so the narrow issue is, the fence and the height of it. And
When did
whether-
we approve it?
January 2016.
Madam Chair, if I could just add in to what the city attorney is offering here. Some of the issues raised by Mr. Mohammed could potentially be code enforcement violations, and we could certainly send code enforcement to look at trucks parking on the street. Our water quality people can look at issues related to vehicles, damaged vehicles on the site. So some of these things we can take as a code enforcement complaint and have someone go out and look at those things. But as Hung Dao is indicating, the agendized matter tonight is the fence height issue.
Do we have any more questions?
Yes, I'd like for us to consider the idea of rethinking this site and returning it back to the applicant.
Well, let's be clear that we're looking at a fence height tonight. We're not looking at changing it from a tow yard to a toy store. I mean, it's a tow yard.
Thank you. But I feel that we have a greater responsibility.
Do we have the ability, I think, is the question that our attorney just said we don't.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, yes, as I mentioned, this is narrowly a site development permit for the fence height. If the Commission wished to expand the scope of it, that would have to be part of another agenda. That would have to be, properly noticed.
Is that something that we can do?
Well, there are enforcement mechanisms. As the director mentioned, there could be code enforcement issues related to this property that, they're alleged at this point. And if it got to a point in the investigation that, there were serious concerns, the commission or the city has the ability to revoke the permit.
But it would have to basically come from code enforcement first. It can't be because the three of us say, oh, we want to look at that business.
An enforcement case would be the product of, extensive code enforcement investigation and kind of building that case, and that would be brought, through the proper chain. There's a whole section in the code about revoking permits and who gets to hear that.
But legally tonight, or 4 weeks from tonight, can this group say, we want to have this business re-looked at as far as who they are and what they are?
Well, may I interject? There's actually 5 of us here.
It would take a vote of 3. And my question is, legally, is it?
Well, I have some comments too.
Okay, I just asked the question.
Submitting this application has brought to light a series of circumstances, one of which it appears to be a building that's operating on that site that appears not to have customer parking or adequate parking on that site. Is that correct?
In the previous use permit approval, this was a storage facility. They have another facility located in another area that up, I believe, on Orange, that holds the parking for the towing facility customers. That was part of the use permit that was approved in January of 2016. This is a storage facility. The customers, the office employees are at another location.
Okay, I have some thoughts here, if I might, and I think this could even apply with Lieutenant Valentine, because if I'm hearing right, there's overnight street parking of trucks out there, and code enforcement doesn't work overnight, so that means I think our sheriff's department is going to have to be the one that kind of takes a look at that. Have I strayed too far off course here? Okay, hold on. We'll get to you in a second, sir.
The sheriff's department's out there enforcing criminal violations of law. They're not exactly looking for code enforcement violations.
Okay.
If they see egregious acts or things occurring at businesses and things like that, then they would forward that to us the next day, and then we would still send code enforcement out to take a look.
Okay.
The deputies just don't have that in-depth knowledge of what's approved in a use permit or anything else.
Yeah. I think we need to validate that, in fact, if there's a violation of overnight street parking, that would have to be, validated. So whatever the mechanism is, that just needs to get done. I agree with what the director's comments about code enforcement taking care of this. And thank you for bringing back to our attention what the original application that we did approve, the permit that we did approve, because customers aren't supposed to be here. And I think that's, I don't think we need to go back and revisit our original approval. I think what we've got to look at is in this site that those customers aren't supposed to be there. And that's, again, a code enforcement issue. So we just need to let the code enforcement department know that there's a problem and let them go out and do whatever's necessary and deal with the applicant in resolving that. But as far as we're talking here tonight, we're talking about one issue. We're talking about the fence.
Have you contacted the city with regards to your concerns about the parking and the street blockage? Can you come up? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I think the street blockage is probably the bigger concern.
And have you contacted the our city with regards to that, or is this your first incident?
Well, this is the first time that
Okay.
it was being presented. I think putting a setback, getting them off the street, and then they can deal with however their protocol is. If the speaker's here, maybe he can speak about the protocol. But I think the office that you're talking about that they have across the street, I believe that's a mechanic shop. So I don't know. I don't know what
Okay.
if they have another office. I know they do have another office in Dana Point.
I was just curious if you had called on
I never
the
did.
complaints. Okay.
I didn't. It's just it's not one of those things that we want to keep bugging you guys about. So,
Right. Well, we
when
appreciate you being here tonight for sure.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Madam Chairman,
Yes. Thank you.
can we ask the applicant to approach?
The applicant should. Would you like to get a card and or we could you could do it afterwards. Just make sure that, and when you approach, you need to state your name and city of residence, please.
So, I'm Gary Heil. I live in the city of Lake Forest. I've been in business in the city of Lake Forest for 23 years. There is none of our tow trucks parked on Orange Avenue, Front Street, or any of that, like he's saying. None of our customers park in their parking lot, which he is saying, because we have a parking lot up in El Toro Auto Center that we've maintained for the last 5 years now. And that's where our customer parking is during the day. That was approved previously, and night and weekend releases are at the yard where they can block our driveway so they're not causing any problems with traffic flow there. So all the customers need to call us to find us where we are because they can't see our sign on Orange Avenue. So them parking in their lot is absolutely false.
Would a new sign help?
I have 2 signs out there right now. Because of the problem at the El Toro Auto Center and everything going on there, that's another project.
Okay. Did you have a question for the applicant?
Yes. I'm assuming that a, quote, customer comes to your site because their car has been towed?
Yes.
And is impounded? Okay. And to what address is that person, how do they know where to go?
First of all, they call the sheriff's department where they find out where their car is, and then they call us and we give them the address where to go and directions usually to help them find out where we are in the El Toro Auto Center.
Okay.
But the only tow trucks that are parking on Orange Avenue is Avante Towing. He's got 5 tow trucks that sit there daily. Our tow trucks do not sit on Orange Avenue, Front Street, or anywhere on the street at all.
Okay. Well,
Where are the tow trucks stored?
They're in our parking lot, in our garage, or they're inside the parking lot, storage facility, or they're down in Dana Point. None of our trucks sit outside.
So if I choose to drive by there late at night, I'm not going to see any of your tow trucks?
Knock your socks out. You see it.
I'd like to just, with all due respect, kind of call a point of order here and go back to what it is that we're looking at, which is the fence height. Did you have any comments tonight on the fence height?
The only reason why we had to extend the fence height is because of the Mako property and whatever's going on there. The uneven ground, they can back up cars to our yard and jump over the fence. They also have a box truck there that parks usually in the fence that you saw, where it now makes the fence 2 feet tall for somebody to jump over it. So without making it look like a prison cell at the end of the street there, I made it look as nice as possible aesthetically, as the city requested the Planning Commission that the chain link fence be removed and replaced with a wrought iron fence and seriously improved the whole corner and the property there. As far as Mako and the landscape out in front that you're talking about, because that's where you're talking about, I was in front of Mako there. That has nothing to do with me.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions of the applicant with regards to the fence height? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's bring it back up here. Does anybody have any other comments, concerns about the fence height?
Comments, not concerns. I fully agree with why the applicant has requested the variance here from that. I find no fault with that at all. I think anything we can do that can help to be a deterrent for any kind of potential criminal activity is a wise thing to do. The more difficult we can make it for people to want to do that, the better off. So I have no objections to the request.
Any other comments?
Make a motion we close the public hearing and bring this back and approve staff's recommendation to increase the height of the fence.
I'll second that.
Okay, with that, we will vote.
Excuse me, before you vote, we did have an addition to the approval resolution that we put on your dais today, and so we want to make sure that this is the resolution that you're looking at this evening.
I'll amend my motion to refer to the revised resolution.
Thank you.
And you want to revise that second?
No. Or
You'd say
I-
yes. Just say yes.
yes. I'm good.
All right, with that, we'll vote. Thank you, Amy. All right, so that brings us to item number 5.
Item 5 is a use permit for beer and wine sales for off-site consumption at an existing grocery store and a determination of public convenience or necessity for a 99-cent store only. Ron Santos has a staff report this evening.
Good evening, Chair Francis and members of the Planning Commission. This item is a use permit to establish beer and wine sales at an existing 99-cent store located in the Foothill Ranch Town Center. The applicant is also requesting a determination of public convenience or necessity as required by the California Business and Professions Code in census tracts with an undue concentration of alcohol licenses. The application was submitted pursuant to a recent zoning code amendment, which requires a use permit for retail alcohol sales citywide, and a policy for the review of requests for alcohol sales recently adopted by the City Council, which requires Planning Commission review of requests for determination of public convenience or necessity. The code amendment and policy also establish additional findings for approval of alcohol use permits, as well as guidelines for making determinations of public convenience or necessity, all of which are detailed in the staff report. The total proposed beer and wine display area is 104 square feet, which comprises 0.7% of the 15,500 square foot sales floor. All beer and wine would be displayed at room temperature on shelves along the back wall of the sales floor. No hard alcohol would be sold, and no alcoholic beverages would be served or consumed on site. As part of the application, the applicant identified security provisions which are either already in place or proposed with the use, including security cameras that are installed throughout the premises and employee training pertaining to the sale of alcoholic beverages. Pursuant to the city's policy, the application was reviewed by the Chief of Police Services, who prepared a report for Planning Commission consideration. Among other things, the report indicates that the alcohol violations of law represented 1.4% of the crimes in the corresponding census tract in calendar year 2015, which is lower than the percentage of crimes that are alcohol violations citywide. That's 2.2%. Additionally, the report indicates that the census tract generated 0 calls for service directly linked to alcohol at similar businesses in 2015. The report concluded that the use is not expected to result in nuisance activities, detrimental conditions, or a need to augment police services. Other pertinent factors and considerations outlined in the staff report include the specialty character of the store in terms of pricing, that the business is a full-service grocery store which many customers use for one-stop shopping, and that as a result, the addition of beer and wine would provide a certain level of convenience for 99-cent store customers. Staff is recommending approval of the use permit and the determination of public convenience or necessity based on the application's consistency with the city's guidelines and the findings included in the draft resolutions. To date, no public comments have been received regarding this item. That concludes staff's presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Additionally, the applicant, Mr. Steve Rawlings, is in attendance, and of course the Chief of Police Services is here should you have any questions for them or should there be any crimes committed.
Right now? Well, thank you, Ron. For somebody this sick, you sense of humor. All right, does anybody have any questions of staff? All right. Do we have an applicant and cards? Oh, there it is. Could you hand it? Thank you. Remember, state your name and city of residence.
Well, good evening. My name is Steve Rawlings. I'm here on behalf of 99 Stores. My place of business is 26023 Jefferson Avenue. Oh, residence, 23707 Balestros Road, Marietta, California. Anyway, I'm here on behalf of 99 Cent Only Stores, and it's a pleasure to be back here in Lake Forest. I had a chance to kind of go through the process and certainly was keeping up to date with the zoning ordinance, and I applaud everybody in the city that worked on that. It's a good ordinance. It's a make sense ordinance. I just wish it would have been adopted a couple of years ago, but I applaud everybody's efforts on doing that. And officially for the record, I do concur with the staff report and the findings in the resolution, and we do agree to all of the conditions of approval as presented to you this evening. Did want to make one point of clarification. Mark pointed out that there was one typo on our statement of operations, and I wanted to clarify that if an ID is birth date is input that is not and they're not 21 years old, then the transaction will not be completed. Does that officially clarify the typo on that? My sincerest apologies. With that, I hope that everybody's had an opportunity to visit 99 Cent Only Stores, and I certainly hope that you're all shoppers there. I had given some rather extensive presentations a couple years ago when I was here, and I certainly can provide more information if anybody on the commission feels that they need any more information. But other than that, I just wanted to say that we agree with the conditions and available for any questions or comments.
Before Mr. Rawlings sits down, does anybody have any questions?
Just regarding the security measures, when we're talking about you maintain the videos for 30 days.
Yes.
And it's available upon
request by any law enforcement.
Right.
Yeah.
So just law enforcement for whatever reason can walk in and say, I want to see the tapes from yesterday at 12 noon or whatever. Are there some, as far as, are the manager of the store and everybody aware of this? I guess we don't.
Yeah, if they're a bona fide law enforcement officer that identifies themselves and says that they're conducting an investigation, then we certainly cooperate, with that.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly. Because, the only reason they're really asking is they thought something suspicious may have happened or something along those lines, and we don't really have anything that we're hiding, so we're more than happy to help out.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so are there any more cards, Peggy? All right, we'll bring it back up here then. Does anybody have a comment on item number 5?
I'll comment. This has been one of those wild, crazy things that we've looked at in the Planning Commission for a number of years. Some of you don't have the benefit of those experiences, which has been kind of interesting. So to some degree, I'm glad that it's been codified and now takes some of that out. But that'll never change my opinion of what the term convenience means. From the original code, from looking at the the ABC, how we recommend that. But since we've made some changes within the city, I think this actually fits in the box based on those changes. Otherwise, we could be sitting here for a long time tonight discussing it.
I'm just, that we're selling it at room temperature and all that stuff, I think that sort of eliminates the, selling to minors. Chances are that it will be used as it's supposed to, take it home and whatnot. So I'm glad of that. And then with the security measures, and then I know in the old days we used to send, 18, 19-year-old cadets in to try and buy stuff, and I suppose we could still do that. But like I said, the security measures that are in place, you can view that and see what's going on if that comes to that. So I'm pretty happy with the measures that are in place.
Having dealt with Mr. Rawlings before on this issue, I'm sure he remembers our conversations previously. I think of all the people that have applied for liquor licenses, I think that 99 Cent Stores is probably one of the most responsible. And now that the city has placed some things in place that allow us to guarantee enforcement going forward, I don't have any problem supporting your request for a PCN at this point. My concern before was there was nothing in place to allow the city to really take control of that if something went wrong. So I think based on what I've seen at your other stores in the city, you've pretty well stayed up with the agreement that you made with us in the beginning. So I have no trouble supporting your PCN at this point.
Robert, you good?
I am. On page 106 of our PDF, there's a map of the ABC licenses within that census tract. And if we looked at the distribution there, which includes existing off-sale licenses and surrounding tracts, I think it's reasonable to approve this application. We do have a concentration of commercial that's centered around Town Center Drive, which kind of warps the census, but I think it's acceptable. I know that there were some people that were opposed to this approval, but I see that it's warranted. I think it's reasonable.
Great. Well, I'd just like to thank Mr. Rawlings and the 99 Cent Store for bearing with us and all your patience with this process. I think that, like you said, if it been in place 2 years ago, your job would have been a lot easier, but we really appreciate you working with us, and I think we've come up with, or the City Council, I should say, came up with a good ordinance. So with that, I think we will look for a motion. We'll all move to accept staff recommendation and with the use permit and the PCN.
I'll second that.
And close the public hearing.
And I'll second that.
All right, with that, we can vote. Motion carries. All right, item number 6.
Item number 6 is a tentative track map, number 17543, within the Baker Ranch Plan Community. And Ron Santos has a staff report this evening.
Chair Prentice and Commissioners, the proposed tentative tract map subdivides the 8.5-acre site into 85 lots for single-family homes and 8 lots for private alleys, open space, and utility easements. The building lots are typically approximately 45 feet wide by 60 feet deep. The circulation system for the tract consists of public streets as the primary travelways, with 26-foot wide alleys providing direct access to the homes. each of which include an attached two-car garage. The plan also includes 56 off-street parking spaces distributed throughout the project, as well as 54 spaces on the public street. This provides for a total of 280 parking spaces, which exceeds the city's requirement by 8 parking spaces. All the homes take access directly off the 26-foot wide alleys, which, along with the public streets, provide through circulation for the tract. The alleys also provide direct access to the shared parking spaces distributed throughout. The proposed alleys would be paved with decorative stone, as pictured in the staff report. The site development provides for development of one 2-story detached home on each lot with 3 plant types in either a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom configuration proposed, which range in size from approximately 1,578 square feet to 1,671 square feet. The project is intended to meet a demand for housing in a density range that falls between conventional large lot single-family housing and attached multifamily housing. As mentioned in the staff report, the project is very similar to the Knowles and original Peak projects, which are currently Shea's best-selling product in the Shea Baker Ranch area. The proposed units feature architecture consistent with the Spanish architectural theme described in the area plan, with 3 variations on the theme and 9 complementary color schemes. The project also includes block wall fencing at side and rear yards and view fencing along the rear yards that back to open space. As detailed in the staff report, the project as proposed complies with the general plan, the subdivision code, the zoning code, the plan community standards, as well as the area plan design guidelines for architecture and landscaping. Accordingly, staff is recommending approval of the project as proposed based on the findings in the draft resolution and subject to standard conditions of approval. It should be noted that the project would also be subject to conditions of approval adopted in conjunction with the approval of the Shea Baker Ranch area plan and tentative tract map 16466, which was the master tract map for the Shea Baker Ranch development. A copy of that of the resolution that includes all of those conditions is included in your staff reports as an attachment. Staff is also recommending, however, a correction to the recommended site development permit conditions of approval, which would insert the word precise before the word grading in the headings that precede the conditions of approval numbered 6 through 15, as reflected on the green sheets that were distributed to the commissioners before the meeting started. That concludes staff's presentation on this item, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission may have, and the applicant is also in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Does anybody have any questions of Ron? Okay. Then we will see if we have any cards. Brooke Doy.
Good evening. I'm Brooke Doy with Shea Homes. Currently live in Costa Mesa, but moving to Baker Ranch in August. So soon to be a resident of Lake Forest. I really don't have much to add to what Ron said. It is our best-selling, at least single-family detached product. Our attached, which you'll see later, is also now extremely popular. And this will be our 3rd time doing it. We've, in the last 2 years that we've been open, gone through the first 85 units of the Knowles, and we repeated with 102 at the Peak, and this would be the continuation. Probably a new name, but for now we're calling it the Peak 2. But really it's all identical architecture and very similar site plans. So that's all I have unless there's any more questions.
No? Well, thank you. Don't go very far. All right. Anybody have any comments on the project? Hearing none, is there a motion?
No.
Gotta be
this
quick.
this is typical of what we see in Baker Ranch, what we've seen from Shea. Run a good report on here. One of the things that we've always felt comfortable with, and I'm okay. I'd like to be a little more okay is the parking. We've got 8 spaces over the required. I'd like to see that number a little bit higher personally, but because there is a parking management program in the CCNRs, I'm sure it's going to work out just fine. One of the things we find in some of the developments that have previously been approved is that there aren't that kind of requirement. So again, I'm always happy to see projects come from Shea and the Baker Ranch development because there's a lot of thought that goes into them, and it's well done. So I'm glad that you're going to be a citizen of our city. So yeah, we'll have to have a party for you or something. Yeah.
First Thursday, right here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. If there's no other comments, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Well, I'd just like to make a disclosure prior, and maybe ask the attorney. I went to the project, and I did take a bottled water with Shea on it. Am I good? There is the police here to arrest me if that was...
Madam Chair, that's really getting close to the line, but I think we're good legally.
Thank you.
And could I clarify that we've opened the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, since it's officially open, then I'll go ahead and make a motion that we close it and approve staff recommendation.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, let's vote. Item 7.
Yes, item 7 is also a tentative track map. This is map 17544, also within Baker Ranch, and Ron Santos also processed this project.
Chair and Commissioners, this application would subdivide 15.4 acres and construct 184 attached condominium units at a location adjacent to the project that you just considered, which is west of the Alton Parkway Town Center Drive intersection. The project includes 2 distinct product types: a 2-story linear townhome with 4, 5, or 6 units in each building for a total of 144 units, and a 2- and 3-story U-shaped building composed of 8 units surrounding a motor court, of which there are 5 buildings for a total of 40 units. Each unit has 3 bedrooms and 2.5 baths, and an attached 2-car garage accessed from a 24-foot wide private alley. In the case of the townhomes, and a private motor court for the motor court units. Each motor court building also includes 2 units with a 3rd-story element that could be a lounge or a 4th bedroom. In addition to the 2-car garage at each unit, the tract would provide 66 off-street parking spaces and 86 on-street parking spaces for a total of 597 spaces serving the tract, which is 23 more spaces than required by code. The buildings are designed in accordance with the Shea Baker Ranch area plan, which has a Spanish and Mediterranean architectural theme. The developer has proposed different elevations with several color palettes to ensure that the project is visually appealing and architecturally diverse while still compatible. The applicant is requesting an alternative development standard that would apply only to the motor court buildings. Specifically, the request is to allow a 24-foot separation between 2 units at the motor court entry at the 2nd-story level, in lieu of the 28-foot separation required by the Baker Ranch planned community, and a 28-foot separation between the facing garages of these same units, in lieu of 30 feet. As discussed in the staff report, the requested deviations are not expected to impact vehicular circulation or otherwise result in adverse conditions, and the project meets all of the criteria for approval of an alternative development standard. Accepting the requested alternative standard, the project complies with all applicable standards and requirements, including those contained in the general plan, the subdivision code, the zoning code, and the Baker Ranch plan community, as well as the area plan design guidelines. Accordingly, staff is recommending approval of the project based on the findings in the resolution and subject to the standard conditions of approval. Same as the last project, this project would also be subject to the long list of conditions that were adopted in conjunction with the Baker Ranch Area Plan and tentative track map 16466. Staff is, again, recommending a correction to the recommended site development conditions of approval, which is the insertion of the word precise in front of the word grading in the headings preceding the conditions of approval, numbered 6 through 15, as reflected on the blue sheet this time. That concludes staff's presentation on this item, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Great. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. And I bet the applicant's here. Brooke Doy.
Okay, so again, not really much to add from what Ron said. The row, we've currently sold out. At this point, we have the models left, but we are going to build new models when we get to the other side of Alton. And at this point, they're chomping to the bit to be able to release more homes. We still have people on the priority list that are waiting for their names to get called. And then the courts, we still have a few phases left that we're selling, but same thing. Every weekend that we release, we're selling out. So now we're just waiting for construction to catch up. But both very popular products. It's our starting point home at this point for Baker Ranch. So that's it.
Does anybody have any questions of the applicant? I have a quick one. The garages where you want to come out, what's the separation between the garages that are currently, I went over to
It's
the
the
current
same
project.
as this. It'll be identical.
Oh, okay. So we approved that before. Okay. And Dallas Sheeran, she was very helpful today. She was lovely. So thank you. Thank you very much. So we will bring it back up here. Does anybody have any comments?
Make a motion we close. Oh,
I have a comment.
you first.
You had a chance to look at that track map. I asked that you kind of visualize what it would be like to arrive there on Jasmine and drive through that. There's a series of alley-like roadways with nothing but garage doors. And why I have no, I have a favorable opinion of the product itself. I don't have a favorable opinion of the site plan. I think it's way too tight. And if we look up at where the courts are, in fact, I want to pass to you page L3 of the landscaping plan, which compares the rows versus the court buildings. And there's several units in the court building that are court buildings that I think are acceptable for the site plan, but I don't think that the site plan for the inline attached units is acceptable. It's way too tight. Can you pass that down, please?
Commissioners, sheet L3 is near the back of the 11 by 17 set, in case you're looking for that reference page. It's the second from the last page.
Yeah, it's like third from the last, something like that. It illustrates that there's a significant difference between the way that the courts are configured and the street appearance and the contained area in which kids could run around in the court area, whereas in the other portion of the site plan, you're basically just looking at, you're driving past garage doors. And I don't want to call them alleyways, but I can't think of another thing to call them. I have no problem with the product itself. It's well done. I like it. I just think that the site plan is way too tight.
Have you been to the current project?
No, I have not.
Well, want to look at this? I was there today, and I'm not sure I'm understanding what your concerns are. I think that this type of grouping of homes is different from something 10, 15 years ago traditional?
Well, I think this exhibit here illustrates my point. On one half of the project, you have the row houses that basically you drive through an alley-like access way. Correct me if there's a better way to say that. And when you drive by, you just view nothing but garage doors on both sides. And that's on this portion. But on this portion, you have the courts, which give you an entirely different street scene as you go around here, as opposed to going through here. Now, this isn't so bad, except that the one that we have proposed is you have a bunch of these all throughout, so every place you drive through, you're driving past garage doors. It's, if you look at the site plan, let's see, it's on our...
Can you, excuse me, Chair, or Commissioner J. Almeida, could you describe where on the site plan this is so that our speaker could address that? You're talking about driving somewhere. Could you mark it on a plan and we could show it to her, or?
Yeah, let's see, on page 427 of our PDF, which is, well, L1 actually of the landscaping plan. Actually, sheet L1 of the landscaping plan illustrates that while you have a public right-of-way that goes through the project and goes...
What street is that?
I can't read it. I thought it was Jasmine. Yeah, it's Jasmine. And then you have a series of, help me out if there's a better term than alleyways. There's a series of alleyways and that you would have to drive through. So when you drive through that, as you go past it, all you see is garage doors, garage doors, garage doors throughout that whole complex. So let's see where the north arrow is. So everything west of Jasmine, actually the site plan east of Jasmine is okay. The site plan west of Jasmine is not. The courts on the northern end of the property are acceptable. You get certainly a much different appearance.
Chair Fuentes, the site plan is the second page in on your 11 by 17 sets after the table of contents, in case you're want to look at a hard copy of the site plan. It's the second page. Okay.
You're talking about a difference between the motor court and yeah.
If you look on the two sides of Jasmine, one side has small little fingers that the only people driving in that access way are actually people going to a unit.
Right.
Whereas on the other side of Jasmine, you have people driving past these garages to access other units. And that gives you a very bad, I don't want to say, I'm trying to think of not subjective, but let me find a non-subjective way. If you visualize driving through that, you have garage doors, garage doors, garage doors, you have a small alleyway, you turn left, you go down another alleyway, and you have garage doors, garage doors. That's on I believe, the west side of Jasmine. On the east side of Jasmine, the only people going into those access ways are actually people living there that will access a garage. Then you look at the street scene that's created by the courts, where they're grouped around a center court. So children can go out there. It could be enjoyable, nice space. It presents a good street scene as you look at the buildings in the court. But if you look at the portion that's west of Jasmine, any kid walking around there is actually standing in an alleyway. And then to continue, there's the space between those buildings, from opposite buildings, it's almost as wide as the hallway in a hotel.
Which I do think on page L3, what you're looking at, it's a little misleading because it feels like that's building, but those are low patio walls. So the building's actually further back. And we tried to make those patios as large as we could because that's exclusive use. It's just for that homeowner. So that's their little piece of private space. So in pushing those out, it does shrink the landscape area and walkway between the buildings. But again, the building is set back further than what you see there.
I'll gladly withdraw that last comment. You have a good point there. It still doesn't take away the idea that you have alleyways and garage doors.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, it is somewhat the nature of this product on how the multifamilies are plotted on these sites. It doesn't always work to have the fingers, I guess, if you want to call it, that we have on the outer loop. I don't know, if you haven't had the chance to see the current row, I think we actually did a really good job articulating the buildings, and we have trees and shrubs in between each of the garages, so you're not just seeing garages when you're driving down there. And I mean, actually, we walked it and we were surprised. We thought it looked much better than we had anticipated and better than a lot of the stuff we've done in the past in this type of setting. And where you're talking about buildings, it's 47, 48, 49, it is a long run, but there's not garages on the other side. I mean, you have parking or you have the side of a building, so there will be landscaping adjacent to those.
So in the current project, if you pass the sales and then you made the right-hand turn to make that big circular drive around, you're suggesting that on the left-hand side, as I turned right on that street past the sales, would be the same?
It'd be very similar.
Yeah, and I was there, and I didn't get any sense of what you're saying. It's a pretty product.
You're correct in that, because the units you just showed me are the types of units that are on the east side of Jasmine. They're not the same type of, they're not the same configuration.
This is different than what I'm talking about now. If I just asked her that if you went past the sales office and you turned right, on the left-hand side is similar, if not exactly the same as what they're proposing. Disregard what I showed you here. And what I saw today was, it was a charming streetscape. Is it a charming streetscape that I would want to live on? No, because I would have a problem with the tightness of it, because I've been living in a larger home. So maybe one day I would do that, but that's my preference. But there's the crazy thing about it is they can't sell these fast enough. And that's what the sales gal was saying, is they just have huge long lists, so people are seeing it, they're liking it, and they're buying it, and it's a great interest home.
And I think what you don't see on here too is, obviously one of the big things at Baker Ranch is our parks. And that's where we're really promoting people to go and take their kids to play. We did, when you see the overall site plan, we have a meandering walk between the Peak and the Roast, where you have that long line of buildings from 47 up through 52. There's a meandering walk that takes you out to the Borrego Trail when you cross the street over by the courts. And right up in the corner is Vista Park. It has a junior Olympic pool, it has a playground, a basketball court, and it's, a 30-second walk for these homeowners at the Row. So, I know there was the concern of kids playing in the alleys, but we're also hoping they're going to the parks and playing. They're right next door. Which, if you see the overall site plan on sheet C8 in the front of your book, you can better see where Vista Park is up at the corner of Laurel and Jasmine, the walk between the Peak and the Row, and how it connects up at the courts out to the Borrego Trailhead. C8 has the overall site plan.
Well, I'll end my comments with, I'm saying that a portion of the site plan is acceptable and a portion of the site plan is not acceptable. I believe that those row houses could be reconfigured to minimize the effect of driving through alleyways, and I would like to encourage the applicant to do so.
Yeah,
Thank you. Jerry?
Yeah, I want to comment on some things. Commissioner Almeida, I get where you're going with this. This type of design program, the first time I saw this in new construction was Ladera Ranch, was Ladera Ranch now about 15 years old? I think so. And again, they had the same kind of a situation. Originally they were going to build out about 5,400 units in Ladera Ranch. I think it was closer to 8,400 when they changed their density model substantially. And just like they're experiencing at Baker Ranch, they couldn't build them. They couldn't build enough of them. The type of buyer that's out there is what they've got to build too. And I get what you're saying, and I don't fault it at all. Personally, I'd rather see those kind of configurations where you've got just the drive aisles and the only ones you've got is your neighbors. But that's not going to work. I get why they want to do this, because they've got more demand than they have ability for supply. So they're trying to maximize the supply. It's just a sign of the times. This is the product that people want to buy. So build it, sell it. I mean, that's what there's a certain number of units that they can build. This fits in that certain number of units for their development agreement, and more power to them to build the stuff that the people want to buy.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments up here at the dais? All right, does somebody want to close the public hearing and make a motion?
Should I go back to where I started? I make a motion to close the public hearing and accept the staff recommendation.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, and let's vote. Motion carries 4-1. All right. We are now moving on to closing comments.
I only have one comment this evening. I'd like to wish everyone a happy 4th of July. Our next meeting will be on July 12th, so we won't see you until after all of the festivities, and that's why Peggy has prepared a lovely 4th of July treat for the commissioners tonight. So we'll see you on July 14th.
Thank you. How about our city attorney?
No comment.
No comment. All right. So planning commissioners. Jerry?
Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll go first. Again, Ron, sorry that you're not feeling under the weather, but no one would notice that. You did a great job tonight. Staff did their outstanding job along with that. Really, really good. We had some good stuff here. The last time we had a meeting, I kind of got a little braggadocious about the El Toro baseball team. Had my El Toro baseball hat on. And I want to kind of wrap that up. The El Toro varsity baseball team did go to CIF playoffs. They did win their league. They actually won their last 12 regular season games in a row and went on to win their first 2 in CIF playoffs and then lost in the quarterfinals. Very exciting game. They lost by 1 run. So they ended up, last 15 games, they were 14-1. They ended up 25-6 overall. They ranked number 2 in the county for the season and number 4 in the state. So a great big kudos to Coach Mike Gonzalez and the El Toro varsity baseball team. And my grandson got the Coaches Award last night at their banquet. So not just for his talent, but for his leadership on the team. So I'm trying to keep that little kid moving along. Little kid, he's not. He's over 6'1", over 200 pounds now. So that's my grandson. That's my comments.
I want to thank the staff again for a really good job, and I appreciate your presentations, and I appreciate the work that Baker Ranch is doing to try and build a premier housing development out there. I think that's a benefit to our city. And especially the different developers, and the projects I see doing are comparable to the quality of projects I see in some of the other bigger cities around here that are charging more money. So I appreciate what you're doing there. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank Lieutenant Valentine for being here tonight and keeping the order and peace. It's a tough crowd. Yeah. And the rest of the staff. But just, 700 pages? It was a great staff, great report, and thank you to Shay Baker and all the other applicants that were here tonight.
I'd like to thank the staff. All the work products are excellent, and they're very easy to assess. And also what you require as submittals from the applicants. It's very informative. It's well done. I appreciate that. And I also want to thank the chair for allowing me to express an opinion and a point of view. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn the meeting until July 14th. Thank you very much.